Welcome to our series called the Fort Donelson National Battlefield, located in Dover, Tennessee. Please note that all artillery and cannons are still located closely to, if not spot on, the approximate locations that they were during the Civil War battle between the Ironclads and Fort Donelson. While the deck is handicap accessible, some of the signage surrounding the artillery and down by the river is not. All information read is from the signage inside of the national park. All aboard the Kentucky-Tennessee Living Time Machine. Please fasten your seatbelts and keep your arms and legs inside of the vehicle at all times. But to get going, we need your help. We still need to fire up that time machine to transport us to Fort Donelson Battlefield. Please help us by clicking on the like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons down below. Not only does this fire up the time machine, but it convinces the YouTube algorithm that we need a bigger time machine to reach more people who love history as much as you do. Now, back to our story. Foot's Gunboat Flotilla. The gunboat flotilla that Flag Officer Andrew H. Foote launched against Fort Henry and Fort Donelson consists of both timber-clad and ironclad vessels. The timber-clads, Conestoga, Lexington, and Tyler, were commissioned river steamers converted to gunboats by adding heavy wooden bulkheads and a mix of cannons. The ironclads were named for towns on the Mississippi and Ohio rivers: Carondelet, Cincinnati, Louisville, Mound City, Pittsburgh, and the St. Louis were broad-beamed, shallow-shaft vessels, protected with 2.5 inches of armor on their sides called casemates and 1.25 inches on the conical forward pilot house. They were built by James Eads, a civil engineer with a riverboat experience. Because the rectangular sloped casemates designed by Samuel M. Pooke made them resemble mud turtles, they called them Pooke turtles. Flag Officer Andrew Hull Foote, a veteran of nearly 40 years of naval service, commanded the Union's Western Flotilla. Blunt and implacable resolve, Foote, like Grant, believed the best way to defeat an enemy was to attack him. Flag Officer Andrew H. Foote. Exchanging iron valentines. We awaited with deep anxiety the result of the attack and severe bombardment by the river batteries by our gunboats. Gloom ensued upon news reaching us of their failure and withdrawal from the contest. H. W. Bradley, Taylor's Battery, McClellan's Division. 10-inch Columbiad. This impressive weapon could hurl a 128-pound projectile over 3 miles, but was not as effective as the combined firepower of the 32-pounder smoothbores or the 6.5-inch rifle in the Upper River Battery. 32-pounder smoothbores. Arranged in 2 batteries of 4 guns each, these cannons were capable of firing 32-pound shots up to a mile, inflicted most of the damage on the Union gunboats. Before building Fort Donelson, Confederates built 2 river batteries along the Cumberland River to defend the water approach to the major supply centers of Clarksville and Nashville. One, the Upper River Battery, is located several hundred feet to your right. The other, reconstructed here, was known as the Lower River Battery. Both were armed with heavy seacoast artillery, manned by inexperienced gunners. This battery contained 8 32-pounder cannon, and on the extreme left, 1 10-inch Columbiad. On February 14, 1862, Flag Officer Andrew Hull Foote's Union gunboat flotilla rounded the bend in the distance and steamed up the Cumberland River to exchange iron valentines with the watery batteries. Using the tactics that proved successful at Fort Henry a week earlier, Foote maneuvered his gunboats very close, intending to shell the batteries into submission. The cumbersome vessels, however, moved too slowly, and they became excellent targets for the untested Confederate artillerymen and were forced to withdraw. Union ironclad gunboats. They weren't invincible. Despite the gunboats' reputation and protective armor, the Confederate river batteries pummeled the Union fleet in a 90-minute battle, during which Flag Officer Foote put it, they were, quote, all cut up from a total of just under 100 rounds fired. Confederate gunners hit the St. Louis, Foote's ship, 59 times, the Cardonelet 54 times, and the Louisville 36 times, and the Pittsburgh 20 times. The Timberclads. The Timberclads played a significant part on the attack of the river batteries.
Unloading supplies from steamboats on the Tennessee River. Steamboats like these could transport a 2-day supply of food and other provisions for 40,000 men and 18,000 horses. There's a map of Fort Donelson, Bowling Green, Nashville. As a hub for 5 railroads, Nashville was a transportation center of great military significance. Its occupation would keep clear the way for Union advance into the Deep South. The Tennessee state capital is seen in the background. You see there's a picture of the trains and the Tennessee state capital. Control the rivers and the railroads. During the Civil War, rivers and railroads routinely carried soldiers, material, and food to keep the war effort going. The Tennessee and Cumberland rivers are the main arteries that carried the economic lifeblood to the heart of Middle Tennessee. Most agriculture and manufactured goods passed through Nashville on the Cumberland River. Tennessee's railroads, which covered most of the state, played a pivotal role in military events west of the Appalachian Mountains throughout the war, though smaller and not as well equipped as the northern counterparts. These railroads were able to move masses of people and supplies more rapidly than previous form of land transport used by Tennesseans. The surrenders of Forts Henry, Hindman, and Donelson severed both river and railroad arteries. This forced the South to evacuate Bowling Green, an important part of the Confederacy's western defense line, and to give up southern Kentucky and ultimately much of middle and west Tennessee as well. The rivers and railroads became vital supply lines. Nashville became a huge supply depot for the Union armies in the west. The Confederate heartland was open to federal invasion. CSA, the river batteries. Captain Joseph Dixon, killed. Captain Jacob Culbertson, commander. The lower water battery, established at this point, mounted 8 32-pounder guns and 1 10-inch columbad. Company A, 50th Tennessee, under Captain T.W. Beaumont, manned the 4 guns on the right, and Company A, 30th Tennessee, under Captain B.G. Bedwell, manned the 4 guns on the left. A detachment of Captain Reuben R. Ross's battery of Maury artillery under Lieutenant H.S. Bedford operated the columbad, which was emplaced on the extreme left. On February 13, 1862, this battery engaged in a duel with the USS Carondelet near the close of the bombardment, which lasted nearly an hour. A projectile struck and disabled the 3rd gun from the left and killed Captain Joseph Dixon, commander of the river batteries. It also disabled for a short time Captain J.P. Schuster and killed and wounded 2 or 3 privates. Sign says gun positions. The 4 mounds in this section of the water batteries are some of the first structures built to defend the river. The Confederates mounted 3 32-pounder cannon here, but moved them before the gunboat attack. From this position, they could not be effective against the ironclads. Reconstructed powder magazine. The original magazine was 1-room, double wall, building constructed of logs. It was made bomb-proof by a thick earth covering. The inner space was about 11 feet square. It held 1,000 rounds of for the guns of the lower river battery. An earthen wall passageway called a covered way connected the door of the magazine with the gun emplacements and permitted the safe transfer of ammunition to the guns. That means this was probably over covered at one point. But all this is a reconstruction. There's the powder magazine. Reconstruction. If you notice this gun has a different type of carriage. There's actually supposed to be a track that those two wheels there would rotate on and allow that gun to focus up and down river. So it could do like that. The adjustment there on the under the cannon allowed them to adjust the height of the shot. There are 5 cannons here with one special cannon on the far left. Can't remember right off what type it is, but we'll go look at it in a minute. The serial number on this gun is 7159. This is what I was talking about earlier. We're at Fort Donelson, Tennessee, near Paris, Tennessee. These wheels here on the back allowed the gun to be swiveled up and down the river. This here adjusted the height of the shot. And this allowed the gun to be moved back and forth along this rail to allow them to adjust the distance of the shot. Fort Donelson, Tennessee, and we're talking about these cannon placement here. And here's an interesting sign. It reads, "See me take a chimney, February 14th, 1862. Federal gunboats had edged up within 400 yards. Artilleryman John Frequa calmly said, 'Now, boys, see me take a chimney.' His shot tore a smokestack and the flag off the U.S. gunboat Pittsburgh. Tossing his cap in the air, Frequa roared, 'Come on, you cowardly scoundrels. You're not at Fort Henry.' Fuqua sent the next cannonball through a porthole, and the Pittsburgh started backing up." We're here at the Fort Donelson Lower River Battery. As we were talking about the cannons in another video, we talked about a sign down here. Now this one says, "Killed by a loose bolt, February 13th, 1862. On the evening of February 13th, 1862, the U.S. gunboat Cardinal fired a few shots at this lower water battery. One Cardinal projectile hit the set of Confederate gun carriage at this location. A large screw bolt went flying. The loose screw struck the battery's highly respected commander, Captain Joseph Dixon, in the forehead. Dixon died instantly, the only Confederate casualty in this shelling. This gun, as you can see, is a all different type of gun. Still moved along this rail here and could turn in a 360-degree arc. The height of the gun was adjusted a little differently. As you can see, it had notches in it. The cannon is totally made different, and the cannon did not move back and forth on this railing. This adjusted the height of the gun. That locked it in. And this sign says that it is called a Columbad versus the Carolynette, February 14th, 1862. The 10-inch Columbad was rigidly impartial and fired on the boats as circumstances dictated, with the last few shots directed at the Cardinal. Hugging the eastern shore and a little in advance of the other, several well-directed shots raked the side and tore away her armor. Lieutenant H.L. Bedford, Confederate Ordnance Department. In addition to several cannons here, there's a few places that are marked out like this that don't have cannons in them. And it could be these are representative of where the Confederate troops could shoot at anybody landing on the river or getting to shore here and shoot at other things on the river with rifles. Here at Fort Donelson, Tennessee, right outside Paris at the Land Between the Lakes. That's a sign down there about the Union Army. That's a long way down there, and I'm not capable of walking down there to read that. I read the Confederate one, which is up here, that talks about this gun emplacement. I will guess that one talks about the river roads.
Thank you. We at Kentucky, Tennessee Living would like to thank you for watching our visit to Fort Donelson. Don't forget to hit that like button, as the more likes we receive, the more likely YouTube is to suggest our videos to other viewers. Also, to receive notice when we upload a new video, be sure to subscribe and click the bell notification button. We thank you for continuing to support Kentucky, Tennessee Living as we are discovering the mysteries in Civil War history.